Good morning, my name is Enia Estrada and I'm going to explain two topics for my English class. The first one is reading for specific purposes.
Trick question.
Look, there are many ways to know why we're reading, but many people don't know why we read or even if it is important to your life, but it is. One of the best answers is that reading is for answering your comprehension questions. Even though we have a lot of vocabulary, we're not able to say that we have the sufficient to know the best English. Reading is capable to give us that ability. And there are these questions we think like they are pretty obvious every time, but it's not. There are some questions and there are some vocabulary that we don't know. Even though reading is one of the best ideas to accumulate your studies, to start searching for everything. It's not like more internet, but for books and things that can help you to start thinking about what is the world, and that's are the books, and that is reading. But even though we know that we need to read and we need to apply that to our life, first we have to know about some important definitions about what is reading. We say that is an essential tool for our daily life. It is fundamental for our studies and for the research process we have in all our educational life. It provides a lot of techniques that we can use, and it is more effective and funny and more interesting, even more interesting than internet, because there are some things that you look for internet that aren't in our books and so on. With reading we can analyze, we can divide, and we can make us a lot of questions about what we're reading, of what we are learning. And also for these things are a lot of tips you can use. One of them are taking notes, which is very cute and very interesting, because taking notes is one of the ways you might answer and you might record everything you're saying. All the things that the author tries to transmit you write them on a paper, and that's obviously a type of a reading, because you start reading at one time and read it another time, and that's like a kind of practice for your self reading. But also we know that even though in reading which we can see a lot of advantages, there are a lot of disadvantages. As we know, reading for research is a very important method to use for different purposes, as I was talking, but also it has some disadvantages. And it can be categorized as linguistic researches, text-based research, and ethnographic research. There are advantages and disadvantages, and I'm going to talk about some of them. For example, it can be able to explore a situation that you have learned about in the field linguistic content module. But a disadvantage is that because it is often focused on a theory, because it is focused on what a person said, and it is also cited, and with a bibliography, the research could be quite based on the results you get, and it can be frustrating when you're looking at a phenomenon that isn't there. You cannot say that this exists even though in the reading it's not. Another advantage is because a text can encompass just about anything. You have a lot of freedom. But a disadvantage is that distinction that needs to be made between the text-based research and the extended essay. It's very difficult you to try to discuss something even though where it is cited or where it's not. And finally, to invite you, I said that there are many strategies that you could use, but there are two that are more important than another ones. For example, the schemes and scam. What is a scheme? A scheme is a technique that we have been used along of these years because it is very useful, and it is a technique that help you to understand the general ideas of a book. Try to look out for the hook, try to look out for the main ideas, secondary ideas, and then you have like a conclusion of what you're going to say. And the scam is like a technique of a magnifying glass. You're looking for some things like very little that can be very interesting for you and for your research, even when you are reading. In conclusion, for the reading, I said that it is very, very important that we read, that we research for things that can be useful to our life. Why? Because only reading we open our eyes to the reality, and we know that we are like in a bubble where we think everything is like too cool and too correct, but it is not. I invite you as a university student to start reading, because this will help you in every part of your life, and it will send you to places that you cannot think there are possible. God has many things for you, and reading is one of the things that He gave us. So start doing it, because I started doing. And thanks for my mates to give me this opportunity to make this video, so one person, two persons, even three can hear this and can start to this idea. So then I start with another topic, that is English for specific purposes. We know that English is very, very used in many parts of the world, and it have many different purposes. But in every purpose is very important, because we can use for a professional, for doctors, for lawyers, for business, for marketing, for tourism, and every part that we use it is too important, because it's the way we communicate with the other ones, and how we can relate our ideas with the other ones. For example, my topic was marketing, and we said that marketing was very important for the business. If you don't know some specific words for this world, it's very difficult that someone could buy you or sell you something, because they don't have that responsibility, or even though that confidence for you. Somehow I will give you some examples. For example, in tourism, if you go to the United States and you want to talk about some things, you need to know and you need to read some important magazines or some important things, so you can communicate with other ones. The English for specific purposes needs analyzing to determine which language skills are most needed. In every area that you use it is very important. For this, we said that it is not only for English but for another languages. The basic idea and the basic conclusion we have to say is that even in every area you use it, you know which words and how to use it correctly, so every person hears you could know what you're talking about. And also, as a specific definition, we can say that this term refers to the teaching of a specific genre of mostly technical English for students with specific goals, careers, or fields of study. Examples include English for academic purposes, as we were talking about in some periods after, and English for business and management, as I was talking in my exposition, in my presentation in my English class. You know, even though you don't know a little bit of this language, you have to know that in your language and in your idioms, you need to know how to communicate with others. It is very important to know which words you can use, and as I was saying in all this last minutes, because it's the way that they are going to understand you, and the way that they are going to give you some opportunities to share your ideas. That means tries to explain us that English for specific purposes is very important, and I understand it correctly, for tourism, for a professional interview, for marketing, for business, for everything, or even for a conversation between a student and a student, a conversation between a teacher and student, conversation between one person and another. English for specific purposes should be applied, because even if we don't apply it, people is going to understand us, but it's not the way we want, and it's not the way that academic purposes tries to teach us. This was all my video, and I hope you like it, and I hope I could be understand with my topics and with all the procedures I could make. Thank you, and I hope you love it.